In Monster Hunter, all melee weapons have a mechanic called Sharpness, which is indicated by the sword-shaped gauge in the top left-hand corner of your HUD. There are currently 6 levels of Sharpness in Monster Hunter Wilds, going from least to most sharp, indicated by the colors red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and white. In previous installments of the series, there is a 7th Sharpness, purple, which is typically released in the Master or G rank expansion. So I'd expect that for Monster Hunter Wilds' eventual DLC as well. The sharpness bar for your particular weapon can be accessed by going to the Hunter info in the menu, and while in the blacksmith menu, you can see the sharpness gauge indicated here for any weapon you are trying to forge or upgrade. This gauge will indicate the maximum sharpness on the far right hand side and also show you the general amount of sharpness at each color level. Furthermore, it will show you in this kind of lower portion the maximum sharpness that can be attained through adding the handicraft item skill, and this is more important later on once you get into the end game. Generally speaking, all standard melee attacks will consume 1 tick of sharpness. However, attacks that are deflected off the monster, gun lance, shelling attacks, and guarding with the greatsword will consume more ticks of sharpness depending on the severity of the attack being guarded against. Each color of sharpness level corresponds to a unique damage multiplier, which applies to both the raw damage and the elemental damage. And when the gauge depletes enough, as indicated by this little hash mark on the sharpness gauge, you will drop down a level in sharpness color. Furthermore, in addition to the raw and elemental damage multipliers, certain attacks, notably the greatsword's charge slashes, receive a further multiplier buff depending on the sharpness level. Sharpness is not only important for the damage multiplier, but also determines whether or not attacks are deflected off the monster as well. Generally speaking, green level sharpness will not be deflected by most monsters in low rank unless you are attacking a heavily armored part of their body, while in high rank this is typically replaced by blue or white sharpness, where the majority of attacks won't be deflected. Speaking of deflections, the skill Mind's Eye, which has 3 levels, gives a 50 to 100% chance to prevent all attacks from being deflected, regardless of the sharpness, as well as granting an additional damage bonus to hard targets. Furthermore, some weapons have certain moves in their movesets that have a built-in Mind's Eye mechanic, such as Longsword's Spirit Slash, Sword Mode on the Switch Axe, Self-Improvement buffed Hunting Horn, and Charged Sword Charge Blade. This is definitely helpful to keep in mind if you regularly play these weapons. As mentioned earlier, sharpness is slowly depleted every time you use your weapon against a monster, and to regain that lost sharpness and get back up to that maximum color, you need to use the whetstone item. What's nice is this is an unlimited use item, but if you're from the pre-Gen 5, aka the pre-Monster Hunter World era, you'll definitely remember the days when these were limited, just like potions or rations. Anyways, using this whetstone item will lock your character into the sharpening animation, which needs to be completed fully for the sharpness gauge to be restored to your maximum level. However, unlike in previous games, each sharpening stroke will restore a partial amount of the sharpness bar, and additionally, the sharpening animation can be cancelled out of by rolling. Furthermore, the sharpening animation can be shortened through the use of the speed sharpening skill, which has 3 levels, which removes 1, 2, and then 3 cycles respectively from the sharpening process. A similar shortening of the animation can be achieved by using the Wetfish Fin and the Wetfish Fin Plus items, which can be obtained through fishing. In general, it's best practice to keep weapon sharpness as high as possible in order to maximize the damage output due to the raw and elemental output multipliers. However, in practice, this isn't always possible to keep things topped off. As a general rule of thumb though, I'd advise trying to stay at least in the green in low rank, the blue in high rank, and then eventually when master rank comes out in the white or purple. This will not only keep your damage output high, but will also prevent deflections, which can put you in a lot of trouble. And while pulling off a mid-fight sharpen can be a kind of risky move, the upside is worth it in a lot of cases. So learning the monster's moveset and current aggro is key to timing it. Furthermore, the default included Ghillie Mantle, which recharges every 5 minutes and completely conceals your presence from the monster until you attack. Combined with the new partial sharpening mechanic, definitely makes it a lot easier and safer to sharpen mid-fight than in games past. So definitely make sure to use these to your advantage. Generally speaking, the first time you run down your gauge mid-fight, I'd recommend popping that Ghillie Mantle in order to resharpen and then get a free sneak attack. And then definitely start making it a habit to resharpen every single time the monster leaves the current area you're in and you have to chase it to a new locale. Whipping out that radial wheel and spamming that whetstone every time you hop on your bird Brainicus companion to chase down the monster is a real big Brainicus move. And lastly, some sharpness related skills you can implement into your builds include the Razor Sharp ability, which grants a chance on every hit to maintain sharpness, the Protective Polish, which grants a period of maintained sharpness after sharpening, and Master's Touch, which grants no sharpness loss when you hit a critical hit. And finally, Handicraft, which I mentioned before, which will extend your sharpness gauge, giving you more hits at the weapon's maximum level of sharpness. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Let me know if I got anything wrong down below. Thanks for tuning on in, and we'll catch you next time. Adios, amigos.